Good morning, Bitcoiners. This is Daniel from the Bitcoin Citadel on the countdown to our big launch on September 30th. Out here at the lake today for a short video. Today's topic is the menu is not the meal. And what I mean by that is that we have mental models of the way the world is. Another way to say it, the map is not the territory, right? I hear some geese, Canada geese in the background. Say hey to my Canadian friends. Fall is here, my friends. So the map is not the territory. We have a way of navigating in the world, this mental framework, our understanding of the world that we've put together in our heads based on our education, our experience, the way we were brought up, I think in some ways to our genetics. All of that stuff goes into it. And that way of understanding the world and navigating through the world has got us to where we are. And we are Bitcoiners. If you're watching this channel, you're a Bitcoiner, probably, or someone who's interested in Bitcoin. So in our map of the world, we understand that Bitcoin is the best money that was ever created, right? And that's how we navigate through the world financially, right? We also have a belief that Bitcoin will solve a lot of the problems that we currently experience in the world. But we still have to live in the world, right? And Bitcoin is not the only item in our map of the world. It's not the only item on the menu, right? And what I'm trying to get across now is that this saying, the menu is not the meal, applies to us. No matter how good the menu is, it is not the food and the drink that you will be imbibing, right, after you order your meal. So the menu is nothing more than a description of the meal. And if you're like me and you're a simulationist, the meal's not even the meal, but we won't get into that now. Why do I say this? The reason I say this, wow, it's really pretty out here this morning. The reason I say this is because we have a lot of, I think Bitcoin is a great, if you're going to have a menu item, if you're going to have an item on your menu to try to understand the world, Bitcoin is great. Bitcoin is so helpful for that, but it's not the only item on your menu. And right now, as I speak, right, there's this is a little more than a week after the Charlie Kirk event is what I'm calling it now, because we don't know what the hell is going on with Charlie Kirk. We know there are things we know. We know that Charlie Kirk has exploded into the consciousness of millions who never heard of Charlie Kirk before. We know that people, conservatives, people of a conservative bent, right, are starting to go to church. They're starting to really watch Charlie Kirk's videos. There's people who are in the middle, right, who weren't on the far right, weren't on the far left. Bitcoiners are not left or right, right? Bitcoiners who had never really followed Charlie Kirk at all, who are watching his videos. And this is playing out in real time. Why is Charlie Kirk so important? Why was he seemingly publicly assassinated? That doesn't happen often, right? You can think back to the few times in history when it's happened and the people who it's happened to, and it's always there's a lot of energy that's built up into that explodes into the world, and we're seeing that right now. My question to you is, or my challenge to you is, don't accept the menu that's being offered to you about this story of Charlie Kirk at face value. That's my challenge to you. If you want to understand how these events play out, in a good way to analyze them for yourself, because we're never going to know exactly what happened. All we have as observers, right, through screens, basically, that's how we observe it, right? We weren't there on the ground, most of us. I'm sure probably no one who watches this video was there on the ground when this happened, at least in the short term. I'm not that egomaniacal, right? So we don't know what happened, but we do have ways we can, use our discernment and our critical thinking skills to understand what's happening now, right? We can. One of the primary ways we can do that is by trying to see who benefits from the story that's coming out now, right? And I've watched some cool videos about this recently. I love Tom Longo. He says it's the British Crown that's involved. If you read the not the mainstream media, but the Bitcoiner media, right? Little alt Bitcoin media, everyone's pointing at Israel now. I love Marty Bent's show. I can't wait to see what Marty's and his guests say about it. But here's the way I look at it. One of my favorite investigative journalists is Dave McGowan, who wrote Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. And it's about Laurel Canyon in the 1960s, and about how the whole hippie music explosion and the counterculture were a psyop, right? They were orchestrated by intelligence agencies, namely the CIA and the United States intelligence apparatus. There's another great book, and I can't remember the title of it. It's about the Beatles and Billy Shears, and it's written as if Paul McCartney or Billy Shears was confessing to the fact that the original Paul McCartney died, I think it was on September 11th, 1966. Imagine that, one day after, Charlie's date, right? And was replaced by a singer called Billy Shears, and everything after that was a psyop, similar to the Laurel Canyon thing, but with British intelligence, right? And it's entertaining, which is why I like it. But there's also, you could look at that and see a grain of truth. This is the Billy Shears book, I think, was written mostly as entertainment, but it's entertainment with an edge to it. Dave McGowan's books are entertaining, but they're not entertainment. If you read Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, there's a lot of meat on the bone there, right? He also wrote about 9/11 and the Kennedy assassination and the Lincoln assassination, and compellingly about the Boston bombing, the Boston Marathon bombing, right? And the stories that the media told about that, and the mainstream narrative, and all the holes that are in it. Really obvious holes. And I would have loved for Dave to be around now for the Charlie Kirk assassination, because this thing doesn't hold water at all, right? One of the things that's great about him is when he saw something that wasn't consistent, that definitely was bullshit, he crossed it off his list and he didn't go back to that, right? It's like, this is obviously bullshit. We can cross that off and we can move on. And he was really good about going through evidence like that, using this, compass of who benefits, and really looking at things from a first principles, clear-eyed, critical thinking approach. And I think we need more of that. I think we could use some of that in the current spam wars within Bitcoin. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole now. And I think that we have to understand that Charlie Kirk's assassination falls into that category. There's a lot going on, right? The mainstream narrative that's being composed now is full of holes. I would have loved to have Dave McGowan look at the October 7th events in Israel, because that doesn't hold water in my mind either. I haven't really dug into it that much, but that's a bullshit narrative too. And I think that the people who propagate these stories and who get to steer this narrative, right? I think that some of the same people are behind the scenes of both of these stories, these narratives that have exploded into the consciousness of the world, right? You guys know me. I think that we're in what you would call the second seal has been broken, and this is the time when peace is removed from the earth. And if you look at the knife violence for Irina that happened just before Charlie, and you look at what happened to Charlie with, you know, a sniper's bullet or whatever it was, it's unclear what happened, right? I think the sniper on the roof is probably the least likely of all the stories. It was intended to stir people up and to remove peace from the world, right? So it lines up perfectly with that narrative. But that's just the beginning of those kinds of stories, right? That's all it is. So what this video is about is to remember that the menu is not the meal. The map is not the territory. Even your clear-eyed understanding or framework or model of the world is just that. It's a model. And I would add that the territory is not the territory. The meal is not the meal. Because we live in a photo negative of the real reality, right? This is a simulation. It may be based on an actual universe, right? It may be. It could just be a fictional narrative. Who knows? If I was a betting man, I'd be betting on the fact that it is a model of a real reality, right? But it's not, right? According to me, and you could believe whatever you want. It's cool, you know. What you believe, this map, this menu, this model that you have of the world will help you to navigate it, and it will help you to be successful or not in the world. But remember, it is just a map. What we think about, the framework we have, the model that we have is just that, right? So when new facts come into your perception, right, you may have to change your model. And if you do, and you're successful with your iterations, you're going to have a better model and a better map. We're lucky. We all came to Bitcoin, and that is a pretty good a la carte item in our menu, right? It's great. But there's other items on the menu too. And this whole Charlie Kirk thing, right? That's a big matzo ball, right? And it really is worth considering. Not trying to get to the bottom necessarily of everything that happened, but worth looking at it with an emotionlessness, right? With a clear eye, with critical thinking and first principles thinking. In this time of the second seal, when we're being played, you know, these emotions are being played to remove peace from the earth. Remember, it's really just a wake-up call, right? The first seal was, you know, your iPhone playing the sound to wake you up, and you slapped on the phone and it shut down. The second seal is we snoozed it after the first seal. The second seal is trying to wake you up again. That's where we are now. You don't have to get all riled up and crazy because of it. It's really there just to wake you up. You know what I think. I think it's trying to wake you up to the fact that you are an immortal being having an experience in this beautiful, rich, compelling holographic construct, right? It's to wake you up to that. And it's to wake you up to the fact that it's almost time to make for the exit. But only people who are awake when the movie ends are going to go to the exit. Everyone else is going to have to watch the whole movie again. So if you've seen enough of this movie and you want to go to another awesome feature, this is your wake-up call. Anyway, beautiful morning out here. I'm loving it. I was going to do Friday, but I actually have something to do on Friday morning, so I can't make my video. So I'm going to post this today. And I'll talk to you again, probably about a week or so. Peace.